Lord, protect us both. May our study be fruitful. May we exert together. May our egos not get in the way of our discussion. And may the vision of the teaching bless our life and the lives of those around us. Lord, let there be peace, peace, peace. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavai Tejas Vinavadi Tamastu Ma Vidvishavai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Good. Mala, can you do me a favor? Can you get me a glass of water?
Sure.
Thank you. I forgot to get up and pick it up myself. Sorry.
What color do you want?
Okay, so we are, thank you much. As I say, I needed that. Okay, look, so anyway, we are on
The destruction of self.
the self-ignorance, correct? We went, started doing some of that.
Yeah, we actually started the last paragraph.
That's correct. I'm going to read the previous one. This knowledge of Atma, this knowledge of the self, once gained, is never lost. Because you have no more ignorance about Atma. Even if the ego comes, Atma cannot be mistaken as the ego anymore. Ego is Atma. But Atma does not become the ego just because the ego came. Just because a perception comes to or an inference is made, just because an action is done, or a result is gained, just because something happens, Atma does not become the ego. Everything is Atma. Atma eva idam sarvam. And Atma is not any of them. Isn't it true? Isn't it true? Look at this. You see, once you see, in the rope snake example, you saw a snake when it was in the dusk, when the sun was setting. It was not fully lighted, and you saw a snake, and then you jumped and your heart started racing. Okay, but then you brought a flashlight and illumined it, and you saw it was a rope. Is that right? Now, so there goes the snake. It was a superimposition. The snake was a superimposition upon the rope. Is that correct? Now watch. Does that mean that you still might not see a snake in that rope?
You can still see it. Yeah.
That's right. If the conditions are just there, you look at it and say, wait a minute, But then you don't take it for a snake. You know it is a rope. You don't take it for a snake. You know it's a rope. So even if the ego comes, you know you don't get confused. Why? Because you know very well. You know. So before the how do you call this the understanding of astronomy, you saw the sun come up, and then after the understanding of astronomy, don't you see it come up?
You see,
You continue seeing it come up, right? But then, before you thought the sun came up, isn't it? And sat. But now what? You enjoy the coming up and setting, but you know very well, you wink an eye, it's not coming up or setting, it is the earth that is turning.
Yeah.
The sun doesn't fall and then rise on the horizon, you know, during seasons, you know how it is? But it does seem like it's falling. You look, my God, the sun is going. You know, yesterday it was here, now it's over there, it's over there. Oh, hoo, hoo. But once you understand, your understanding comes, it doesn't have to cease falling or cease coming up. Well, because knowledge is there. Understanding is all you needed. It was an apparent reality, it was called Maya. You saw it rise and you saw it fall, you saw it go down, and you know, and you still enjoy the sun, you know, going like this and then going like that. Both ways. And then you just wink an eye and enjoy the heck out of it. So here we have the ego. What is the ego? The sense of what? That I am. That I am the doer, isn't it? It seems as though you act. But then, to most of us, it doesn't seem like that. We act. You know, isn't it? I talk, I walk, I work, I sit, I run, I take, I give. Now, oh my God, the self, Atma is gone. Why? Because I walk. No. So I walk. But I wink and I say, but I don't walk. Just like it comes up, but it doesn't come up. You see the idea? Now, if I am the walker or the talker or the doer, the karta, if I am that, then what is my lot? What happens to me? Versus recognizing myself as Atma, the self. What is my lot if the ego seems to be the reality? What happens to me?
I'm miserable.
That's why I'm prone to misery, I'm prone to suffering, I'm prone to anger, I'm prone to disappointment, I'm prone to that, and I'm prone to judge others and judge myself, comparing myself to others. You see, all this stuff that brings about a whole lot of what? Stress. Is that right? Now, let's suppose, I'm a person from back in the Stone Age, before the observation of the skies was seen. Whenever a red planet came, something was going to happen.
Whenever what?
A planet, Mars came, something's going to happen. Is that right? Or the moon started becoming smaller and smaller and smaller. We ascribe cause, effect to things that didn't have anything. So you didn't look at me, let's say today, friendly, like. Okay. Now, if I am identified with this ahankar, this ego, then you will hurt me. Is that right? Because you didn't say hello to me today. Or if you smile at me, you'll make me feel good. Why? Because identity to the ego. So it is nice that you smile at me, and it is not something that is an event that you didn't say hi to me. But if my identity is not placed in the ego, my identity even though I do function, the ego is a functional thing. Okay, he says, okay, now, but my identity is place where it belongs. I cannot be hurt. Or I cannot inflate myself because who I am is complete in itself. So, I might question, how come, what happened? How come you're so angry at me? I might question that because I don't want you to be angry. Heck, maybe I did something. But not for the sake of what? Of giving me satisfaction because I am satisfied with myself. But if I identify with the ego, then I'm prone to suffer. It's called samsara. That's the name of samsara. Samsara means that mental outlook that even what you don't eat makes you sick. You know what I'm talking about? Even what you don't put in your mouth makes you sick. Because even though someone is looking for approval everywhere and nobody gives you approval, you will be thinking about something else, but then now I became all upset. Why? I go home and start squealing the tires. Going at extra speed. I'm upset. Why? They didn't pay attention to me today. That's the whole idea of the ego. Okay, that ego will still be there because I talk, I walk, I relate. Oh, the self is gone. No, the self is there. You see the idea? That's why I made the analogy of the astronomy. I made an analogy of the rope and the snake to see that it can still be there. I still see the rod, but then there is wool. But it's okay. I still see the rod and I use it. The basis, the adhisthana, the vastu, that which permeates everything, cannot be affected by anything. But this ego requires to be what? Illumined. In other words, it has to grow up. And the only thing that can make it grow up is it finds an identity with which it can be comfortable. Because as it is, when the ego is there, too dense, too gross, then it cannot stand itself. And it wants to get rid of itself. How? By gaining experiences and this and that. And it becomes very vulnerable. In this case, the person that has the ego, let's say, under control, not because he forces it, but out of understanding. The person doesn't have to do anything. The ego functions. And he's like, oh, I hurt. Well, that's your problem. Actually, the person doesn't get hurt at all. It doesn't reach. You know what I'm talking? It doesn't reach.
Mm-hmm. If
I say, hey, look at ugly. Look at how ugly they made that drug. Okay, so so the drug might be out of shape, but the vastu, the basis, which is wool, it doesn't get affected by it. The shape and all that is incidental. It could have been something else. But that which is transcendental, that which is true, it doesn't get hurt at all. But if you identify with the shape, now the rug is got a problem. They don't like me. That's what makes us react. That's what we're talking about. The knowledge of Atma, the knowledge of yourself, who you really are, once you gain it, okay, is never lost. Why? Because you have no more ignorance about yourself. Even if the ego comes, yourself, Atma, cannot be mistaken as the ego anymore. Ego is Atma. In other words, ego is a reality, isn't it? But this reality is what? Is yours. You give it reality. So ego is Atma, ego is a self, it is you. However, this says, but you do not become the ego. Just because the ego came. Just because a perception comes or an inference is made. Just because an action is done or a result is gained. Just because something happens, Atma does not become the ego. You do not become the ego. Everything is yourself. Listen, please. Everything is yourself. and Atma, yourself, look at this please, is none of them. Everything is yourself, but you are none of them. You're not, none of them are you. I mean, they are you.
Though
But,
you are not being.
but you're not them.
Yeah.
And that better be clear. There is a vision, there is a knowledge. Once that is there, then there's no problem. Okay, that's what we left off last time. Are there any questions on this? This is something to be assimilated proper, to see the fact that, to understand it. To understand it. And in understanding is liberation.
Yeah.
And liberation is not something that takes place, it's an assertion or affirmation of a fact.
Yep.
You see, the understanding or the belief that whenever that planning comes in, something is going to happen. And then he sees that we're cursed and we do things so that the plans don't come up. You know, the planet. You know, because if we try to control it here, you know, it has us bound because it is bound to come back, the planet. It may make us think that we're going to stop it from coming, you know, I'm talking about that planet. And so we do this and we do that, you know, to try to stop the planet, so become more benign to us and all that. So they were bound. And you know what? To start, you were not bound. There was no problem. So this liberation is as though liberation, because there's no liberation, you're already free. The planet has nothing to do with you, you have nothing to do with the planet. You know, or it could be the planet, it could be the rains or whatever. So liberation is just as though liberation. Why? Because there's no liberation. Liberation means that something was bound, now you're free. Which is, you were not bound in the first place. You see the idea? You were not found. The only problem was what? The bondage was based on what? What was it based upon?
Ignorance.
Ignorance, that's correct. Complete ignorance.
Okay.
That's what made you jump when you saw the snake. There was no snake in the first place. That's just avidya. Avidya means ignorance, confusion.
Dusting off.
That's right. That's the thing about it.
Yep.
So liberation is quote unquote. Okay. Basu, you want to read, please?
When any action is done, the ego is there, but Atma is free from all action because it is not the ego. Similarly, the means of doing an action or its result is also Atma, whereas Atma is neither the means, the doing, nor the result. This truth being known, the person sees actionlessness in action. Karmani akarma darshanam.
Darshanam, that's correct. So does this somehow confirm what we just saw?
Yeah.
Is it very clear? Is it, do you understand it? Do you understand? That's the question. Can the ego be without Atma?
No.
Why?
Ego depends on the.
That's right. That's right. Can the snake be there without the rope?
No.
Yeah.
Is it the same thing?
Yeah.
Now, the judgment that we have,
Yeah.
we look in the mirror, you know, we look at ourselves, we look at our psychology, our morality, all this stuff that the mind has, our health, our history, our biography, and you look at it, at the ego. Is that right?
Yep.
Now, but that ego is ultimately is this Chaitanya. This Chaitanya means this consciousness. And that thing has been changing all the time, and it will continue to change. There is limitations. You cannot be morally complete. You cannot be physiologically complete. You cannot be anatomically complete. There's always something missing. You cannot, intellectually wise, you cannot know it all. Yeah, in terms of sensory perception, it's going down, it's going down, it's going down. But the judgment that I am not just this is based on what? On the not appreciation, the not apprehension of the truth. To apprehend, the word apprehend. That's what a word in Spanish we call aprender. Aprender means to learn. And to learn means to capture, to get it. That's what apprehend means, to get it. Like you're going to apprehend a thief. He got caught, isn't it? He got apprehended. So this knowledge needs to be apprehended. So therefore then the judgment stops. Of course you can still see the fact. This guy is sick. This guy is deaf. This guy is, you can call it all kinds of things. This guy doesn't know electronics, This guy knows this, all limitations, no problem. They're not, but because they're not you. That's it. And if there's something you need to develop, I'm talking about skill or talent or something, then you go for it, but without judging yourself. A language or whatever. I don't know, all of us had to learn a language. Is that right? All of us had to learn, all of us here. Isn't it? You had to learn a language. Now, did you feel good when you learned the language? You feel like stupid kind of a thing. Because it was just like you couldn't even pronounce a word and it was always messing up and somebody else, and it was kind of made you feel you were a boy or a girl, made you get red and you didn't want to do it, you resisted. Why? Because there was a threat to you. You had to exercise some, effort. And not only that, look foolish. I say, Mina, get up and read me this in English. You were a little girl. I said, not me. Why choose me? Okay, what's wrong with that? I don't want to go to school anymore. That kind of thing. Because it is threatening. Why? Because it makes you feel foolish. If the person has this freedom, then the person, if he or she decides to learn anything, you'll just knock it out. And of course there'll be clumsiness and everything. It's like going to a job. But if you're secure about yourself, then it's not a threat to you. It's a threat to your skills, of course. You have to French is different. You put the language, the tongue differently, and the nose and all that stuff. You have to learn to do that. But then, because of freedom, then you might have a better possibility of learning that language sooner or better. And then if you happen to have a strong accent, so what? You don't go around and say, oh my God, I better change my accent. Why? Because I'm like a fool. Hey, wait a minute. You see the TV set on the TV? There's this woman from Colombia, that comes in and I think she advertises for Coca-Cola or something, Pepsi-Cola. And she's very voluptuous and all that. She say, you think I'm good because of salsa and all that kind of stuff. She has such a strong Latino accent, Spanish accent. And she doesn't care. She doesn't care, but she's good at what she does. She just lies to the hierarchy.
Actually, I remember about 7 or 8 years back, I was surfing the TV channel and somebody was speaking and audience was laughing, so I thought it was kind of a stand-up comedy type, but the guy did not sound like a comedian. He was talking, and then I found out he was the Stanford dean talking to the Stanford student.
I see.
Anyway, he was making some jokes and people were laughing at the joke, but the guy was having all German accents.
That's right, strong German accent. So what,
Yeah.
And the guy, and she speaks, this woman speaks very good English, but there's no accent. It's a very strong accent, and she's fun. Actually, she looks really, not only she looks good, but then she speaks, and she's cute, the way she speaks, and so on. Very, very strong Latino accent. So that's the point. Then it doesn't matter, Yeah, you can work on that if you want to, but I think that's working for her in this case. I think the contract is not only because of how she looks, but her talent, but also You know, she sounds cute. A strong accent, you know. She's very successful. She's all these ads, makes a lot of money. Anyway, that's the point. If a person is secure about himself or herself, there's hardly anything the person endeavors to do, the person will be able to do it. He might not do it to perfection, but even that will not affect the self. And if it's possible, then a person will actually do very well. Very well. In other words, no sweat. Sorry about that, no sweat. Not nervousness. Okay. So continue reading, please.
Knowledge is the only way to destroy ignorance about Atma. Agama alone, knowledge in the form of words alone, destroys the ego because you are not really wielding a pramana here. Rather, you are exposing yourself to the pramana, to the words. In fact, you are so exposed that you get shot by the spear of Brahman, called Brahmastra. In the Ramayana, Rama used Brahmastra to kill Ravana. Astra means a weapon that leaves your hand, and Shastra is that which remains in your hand. The various forms of practice, such as prayers, rituals, and so on, are called Shastra, whereas the statement Tattva Masi, you are that, is called Astra. It comes from a teacher and hits you. It is intended to hit you. In fact, the statement comes out like a bullet and hits the exposed the ego, causing it to die.
Causing it to die. Okay, let's just see if this is clear. So I think the first statement is very obvious, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
What is the first statement?
Knowledge destroys the ignorance.
Okay, so the only way to destroy ignorance is knowledge. There's no other way. Now, and the problem is ignorance. So the solution is knowledge. Now, this is, here it uses the word again, agama. Is that right? Remember that?
Yes.
Agama. Okay, agama alone, in other words, knowledge in the form of words alone destroys the ego, because you are not really wielding a pramana here. Now, are you wielding a pramana? What does it mean by that? This is the basis of the entire paragraph. You are not wielding a pramana here. Now, remember that what the word pramana means?
So means
It's a means of knowledge. Now, what are the means of knowledge that you have at your disposal? What are the means of knowledge that you have at your disposal? What are the pramanas that you were born with?
the eyes and the nose.
That's right, sensory perception, correct? And then inference and all that stuff. Is that right? One is mental and the other one is, is sensory. Is that correct? Those are means of knowledge. This is how we come to know the world. Now, and he says that knowledge alone is the means. Is that correct? To destroy knowledge. Now, to destroy ignorance, I'm sorry. Now watch this, please. Now here he says is agama. What does it mean by agama?
Coming to you.
Is that what it means, coming to you? What does agama mean? What is the translation of the word agama?
Knowledge is not from
Is exposure or coming to you?
That's right.
The knowledge that comes to you.
That comes to you, that's correct. The knowledge that comes to you. He says, this is agama alone, is it? Right?
Exposure.
It says, which is knowledge in the form of words alone. Now, he's not talking now sensory perception. In other words, means of knowledge like the sight and taste and touch. And he's not talking about conclusions and inferences and all that stuff. He's talking about words themselves. Now, and these words are not your words. It is what? Whose words are they?
Shastra.
Shastra, wielded by a qualified teacher, isn't it?
Yeah.
So they come to you. Now, how do you say weapon in Sanskrit? You said Shastra?
Astra and
Astra.
Shastra.
Shastra.
Okay, now, but then one is a weapon that you wield, and the other one there's a weapon that they shoot, that shoot something at you, isn't it? Is that correct? So the weapon that you wield, which means in cases sense perception and inference and all that, this is a weapon you wield. They will not give you self-knowledge.
Which one are they again?
Sensory perception and and inference and all that.
That is Shastra.
Yeah, right. Those are not going to give you, you're not wielding the pramana. The pramana is being wielded, was handled by whoever says the words that come in the Shastra. So he's using that. And then he shoots a bullet. And the bullet is here, the words of the Guru, the words of the teacher, that comes a bullet and it hits you. And he uses one of the Mahavakyas, one of the great statements says, Tat Tvamasi, you are that.
Yep.
And he comes from the outside, and it is not the bullet. That bullet is designed to pulverize the ego, to make you see something. It pulverizes a mistake. Okay, now let me read it again. It says, knowledge is the only way to destroy ignorance about Atma. Agama alone, knowledge in the form of words alone, destroys the ego because you're not really wielding a pramana here. You're not. Rather, instead of that, you're exposing yourself to the pramana. See that? You're exposing yourself to the pramana. Okay, what is the pramana? The words. Okay, then it says, in fact, you're so exposed that you get shot by the spear of Brahman, called Brahmastra. In the Ramayana, Rama used the Brahmastra to kill Ravana. Astra means a weapon that leaves your hand, and Shastra is that which remains in your hand. The various forms of practice. Okay, now here's where we come. Now, who practices the various forms of practice? Who's the one that practices those forms of practice? Yeah, we do. Okay, so the various forms of practice, such as prayers, rituals, and so on, are called what? Shastra. Whereas a statement, Tat Tvamasi, you are that, is called Astra. Now, the various forms of practice, disciplines, cannot produce self-knowledge. I'm talking about karma. Karma cannot produce self-knowledge because you're wielding it, you're doing it. And they will create they will produce something. They will produce something. But what they will produce, it will not be what you're looking for. But they will create a condition in your heart, in your mind, that will make you available to be shot by the words of the teacher. Is that right? In other words, if the mind is exposed to certain disciplines, and you're actually doing, you meditate, you pray, you do rituals, and you live a life that is congruent to this knowledge, dharmic and all that stuff, you're actually honing the inner equipment so that it will become open or sensitive enough, so when the bullet shot by the teacher comes, then it will destroy what? The mistake. Because ego and mistake are synonymous. Okay? What is the ego here? The snake or the rope? The snake. When you shoot the light into it, so what happens to the mistake, to the snake? Boom! It goes away, isn't it? So when there is darkness in a room, and you switch You pull up the switch and the light comes on. What happens to the, let's suppose you were fearful and you came and you heard some noises and it was dark. And your heart starts pounding. Your mouth starts getting dry. Oh my God, I got somebody's in the house. You try to come and say, my God, what did I do? And then you turn the light on and you see there's nobody. It was just a cat that was going to do a noise. Poof, the mistake is gone. So to expose yourself to the teaching, after going through particular practices, disciplines and all that, in which your heart becomes fertile ground, can we say that? Then at the moment of teaching, when a teacher shoots a bullet, of what? Through words. There goes the ego. There goes a mistake.
Like plowing a land.
That's right, like plowing a land. There goes a mistake. In the Christian Bible, in the New Testament, there are some what do you call this? Some stories, not stories. I don't know how you say it. Something that is said by the teacher here in this Jesus, that you cannot throw seeds on a rocky terrain. Seeds. Mm-hmm. They're the words of the teacher. And the rocky terrain is a hard heart, a gross heart. The heart, meaning the personality, the inner personality, needs to be available for it to be what?
Fertile
understanding. It's in the Bible. And then they say, don't throw what? Don't throw something to the swine. What is
Don't throw pearls to the swine.
Don't throw pearls to the swine. They say, swine?
Yeah.
Pigs. What they would just get in the mud, that's all,
They wouldn't appreciate it.
That's right. So in this case, the same thing.
Yeah.
So this knowledge, when the teacher is teaching and the mind is available, then it's no longer a swine's kind mind. It's a mind that is what? Pure. In that mind, then knowledge can take place. It's called Shuddha. Is that Shuddha? Shuddha means pure. And what is this purity we're talking about? Okay, it's some kind of saintliness. It's just, you have to become a saint? Hey, listen. You see, a person that is not vulnerable and is not always angry, always upset, always criticizing, pointing fingers over there, and so on. There's no purity in that mind, there's only anger. There's only tightness here. But if a person is tries to understand and accommodates, there go I if it wasn't for the grace of God, so they made mistakes and all that, and they should be what? They should be dealt with according to the laws of the land and all that, but at the same time, they're human beings. And they just don't know. And so on, and so on. Then the mind is not like this. And then there's a mind that is okay, its understanding is clear. In that mind, this knowledge will take place. That is why it's important to understand. And I love it when Swami Dayananda one day say, there's a logic to everything. I said, what do you talk about? There's no logic to me. Look at that, look at how I am. I said, there's a logic to everything. Understand it, that's all. Try to understand it. And doesn't mean that you have to condone it. Condone it means embrace it that it's okay. No, it's not okay, but still there's a logic to it. But behind that heart is someone that wants to find fulfillment and the full things that way he'll fulfill himself. Even cruelty to others by someone, inherent in that is the folly, the mistake, the idea that by being cruel to others, it makes me feel better. So what I want is not necessarily to be cruel, is what? I want to find some coldness in me and be powerful, kind of thing. That's why people abuse each other, because of this sense of I'm not good enough, so I'm going to do this to this guy so that I can feel good. Even Even pedophiles do that. They're trying to feel good because they feel bad. Is that taking a Coca-Cola? This is life. And so how come you don't drink water? How? Because this is so good. What is good? Is that the Coke? No, it's Ananda. So I don't want Coke. I want to feel good. Why do you want to feel good? Because I feel bad. That's the whole idea. So even the worst crime that is committed, it is just a distortion of the mind. So you have to understand that. Now, of course, put the guy in jail if he does whatever has to be done to the person, but at the same time, pierce to the form. And that mind is a mind that is Ashuddha. Is that right? Shuddha?
Ashuddha.
Ashuddha means what?
Impure.
Impure. And the person that is able to have that mind is Shuddha. Means a person that is a few pure impurities. In other words, hate and anger and all this stuff are not there. There's no cruelty in the heart. But he will be very firm. Even if he's a guy that has to bring down the guillotine, he will do it because it needs to be done. But there is no hate. It's a cruel act. But it doesn't come, I'm not a cruel person. This is my job. I happen to be the slaughter guy. Because they tend to criticize slaughtered people, because they kill animals in the... Hey, listen, this is that happens to be his job. Of course, if he enjoys killing, that's a different thing. You see the idea? That's how you look at it. That's what it's talking about here. He says, the various forms of practice, such as prayers, rituals, and so on, are called Shastra, whereas the statement Tattvamasi, you are that, is called Astra. It comes from a teacher that hits you. It is intended to hit you, in fact. The statement comes out like a bullet and hits the exposed ego, causing it to die. So that is the way to get rid of the mistake. That's what causes, because to make the ego die means the mistake is gone. But then rituals and ceremonies will never do it. Because you're wielding the pramana. You get something from that. But what you get, since the action is limited, the reaction, the results will be limited. Is that clear? Okay. Let's go on.
I think in this case, the Shastra belongs to somebody else and Astra belongs to somebody else. Shastra, like praise ritual, that belongs to me, but Astra belongs to you because you are hitting that.
That's right.
I'm not talking about Shastra and Astra of mine. Shastra of mine and Astra of you.
That's right.
You are shooting it at me.
That's right.
So
whatever I do to myself is Shastra.
yeah.
Whatever I do, whatever I wield is Shastra.
Yeah, that's in my hand.
That's in my hand. That's Shastra. And whatever comes to me is Astra. And you, somebody else.
Whatever I hit at,
Yeah.
that leaves my hand is Astra.
That's correct.
So
That is why this Guru Shishya, relationship is necessary. Because if it is not there, then even reading it by itself, we won't do it.
yeah.
It's like I say that a joke. A joke is words, but there has to be time properly. He knows that. You have to time it properly, and then give it the, how do you call that?
Punchline.
The punchline in the proper way. Otherwise, it won't. It just goes like that. So the mind has to be available there for that. And this is the way. So when you're saying a joke, that is, and I get it, it's Astra from your standpoint.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Astra from my side.
Oh, yeah, from your standpoint, I'm getting that.
Yeah.
I'm getting the bullet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the whole idea. Okay, very good. Okay, Meena, you want to read the next part?
When the ego gets exposed to the teaching, Tattvamasi, it naturally dies, just as the many-headed demon, Ravana, did when he was shot by Brahmastra. Tattvamasi, the Brahmastra, destroys the ego called Ravana once and for all. Rama tried various methods to destroy his enemy Ravana, but nothing happened. He would remove one head, but by the time he destroyed the second head, the first one was back again. This is like trying to remove all our desires. Just when we think one is gone, we find that another one has popped up in its place. Finally, Rama was told to use the Brahmastra. Only then did Rama get back enjoy Sita.
Okay, let's just say. Now in this case, he was trying to cut one head and another one came up. Right? It's like we're trying to get rid of desires. Okay.
Yeah.
The same thing. And now look at this. And then he did something that went to the core of the thing. Is that right? Did Brahmastra. It was a shot to the core of the whole thing. And when he took care of that, the other ones automatically were taken care of. This knowledge, this teaching, that Tomasi, when it's wielded properly, like a joke, properly, it's timed right, and it falls into the heart of someone that is attentive. Is not sleeping or thinking of something else. Then it goes to the core of the problem. The core of the problem is not my desires and everything else. The desires have a reason. All desires have a reason. The reason is that there is a sense of want. I label myself wanting, so I got all these desires. I want a boat, I want to travel, I want this, and I want that, and I want a TV, I want this, it has to be such a size, all these desires. I want you to leave, I want you to come, all these desires. Now, but where do they come from? Why do I want a boat? Why do I want you to leave? Why do I want you to come? You see, now, you can give me possibly what I want. You left. And now, but now something else came up. Yeah, you see, you left, I didn't tell you how you felt. So better come back and let me tell you how I feel. And so on. There's always something missing. Okay, go to the core of the desire. What is it's a sense of want. It is not that I want you to leave or come, or a boat or this. What I want is find a me that's content. You know content? That is established in the content of myself. That's what content means. Yeah, if I'm discontent, it is because I don't know myself. And the self that I have taken myself to be, I have assumed that I am, is a self that has no content. See what I'm talking about? It's a self that has no content. So I want you to give me content by either living or staying. I feel I have no content. And you represent to me content. Your absence or your presence represents to me content. Which way? Because I'm discontent, so I try to get myself content with you. So there's discontentment in me altogether. But if I realize that the problem is not legitimate, because I am content. As a matter of fact, I am the content of everything. Please. Isn't the wool the content of the entire rug? And the ugly strings and the beautiful strings and the big strings and the small strings, the wool is the content of everything. When I know that I am the content, come to know I am the content of it, not just feel that, but know it. Then at that moment, all this, I want you to come, I want to leave, go away. Now, let's suppose you're a person that is so, I need you for this or that, then okay, so I have you come, but not with a sense of emptiness, discontent in me, but the full of contentment in myself. Why? Because I am the content of everything. Then I have you come or leave, like that. But there's a whole new or much more beautiful relationship with you and with the world. But I need to find content in me, to find contentment in me. And then the content, I have to realize, is not going to come from you. Because I am the content itself of everything. I'm playing with words, I think. And if I find that, then I'll be living a life of contentment all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Not because of anything. Because normally, our contentment is because of something, due to something. Here, it's not due to anything. It's because I am the content of everything.
It is as we long time back saw in another chapter, happy by himself, happy in himself.
In himself, that's correct.
Sthita Prajna.
That's correct. This is the pregnant. That's what we're looking at right here.
Yeah.
So the word content and contentment and to be content, they all have the same root. And we're continually trying to find content in ourselves. Content means I don't want to be an empty being. Because when there is no content in me, I am an empty person. And an empty person, the empty person, is completely unacceptable to me. So then I see outside what? Something that will fill that void so that I have some content. I'm a zero. I go in life as a zero. And you represent something that will finally fill that void. And so on. That's a problem. So here the ego will come, since it is a mistake, nothing will make me content. Content? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I'm already the content of everything, the problem with discontentment is just because of a mistake. And this discontentment is what brings the ego forth. And I see something beautiful, I go pining for it. So then I become ruled by things. I become ruled by situations. I become ruled by beings. And people, the world plays with me. I don't get a chance to play the world. I get played on.
I'm the victim.
I'm the victim, that's correct. And it is all the victim of my own folly.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And it is wonderful that it's like that. It is wonderful. Why? Because that means there is a solution.
Yeah.
So this ego thing has to be clearly seen as that which is discontent and is trying to find content so he can feel some contentment. I don't know how I come up with that stuff. Yeah, in Spanish we have contento y contenido. All right.
Louis,
Mm-hmm.
that taking a little bit away, but the same thing they talk about the Brahmastra.
Uh-huh.
That Brahmastra was given to Ravana as actually a boon by Lord Shiva.
Mm.
And he said, nobody will kill you except this Brahmastra. And then Ravana gives this to his wife, and his wife hides it somewhere. So nobody finds it. And it's the Lord Hanuman, when the war was going on between Ravana and Rama, Hanuman goes to, before the war, he goes to his wife, changes his disguise, and acts like a pandit, and tricks her into revealing where the Brahmastra was kept. And she says it's one of the pillars, so he goes into the pillar and takes it from there and gives to Rama.
Oh boy.
And that's what happens. Rama tries to kill him, but every time his head comes up.
Mm-hmm.
Then he takes a Brahmastra.
Mm-hmm.
And Shankara, Ravana also had a Brahmastra, but Ravana was a smart guy. He says, if Rama gives me a Brahmastra and I put mine, the whole world will be destroyed.
All right.
So he says, I'll be destroyed this time. So,
Mm-hmm. So he couldn't actually use the Brahmastra while the other guy had a Brahmastra also.
yeah.
So he had to actually, trick his wife to give him the Brahmastra of Ravana.
No, but despite that, Ravana also had his own Brahmastra.
Right.
So Rama had that he took from Mandodari.
Mm-hmm.
That and they both could use it, but Ravana said, no, I'm not going to use it this time because I care for the universe, so I'll get destroyed. So
Interesting.
interesting.
What a story, huh? This is such a rich culture. That's wonderful.
I mean, despite all his faults and everything, he was a scholar guy himself. Ravana. So
Swami Chinmayananda taught me, because this is all foreign to me, I wasn't born in a culture. I never heard of Ramayana and all that stuff and so on. But, he made me see that the whole thing was Vedanta. That Vedavyasa, in the stories, it's like, becomes like jewel boxes.
oh yeah.
In which inside of them there was the jewel of self-knowledge. And he created those stories and people actually developed moral things and this and that. But the whole idea was to be able to preserve the vision. Because everything in it, is full of content. And it is very useful, especially now that you're studying Vedanta. Now you start looking at it, different light. You say, wait a minute, it was all there all the time. So it has enriched my life. Even though I don't get the whole thing, I didn't know the story. But every time I get exposed to it, instead of just seeing the story for the story, but there's got to be something in it. There's got to be something in it. And I pick up and say, this is beautiful. And especially when there's people like you guys are Indians, and you actually opened my eyes to a whole lot of stuff I didn't know. Yeah, interesting, very beautiful, very nice. Okay, then who was reading?
Me.
Okay,
I can continue.
go ahead, please.
Okay. When the weapon Tattvamasi is used against the exposed ego, it is destroyed. Thus, you need not do anything except expose yourself to the teaching. This difference between employing perception and inference and exposing yourself to the teaching is what distinguishes this particular means of knowledge from all others. Exposing oneself to the teaching is lending oneself to an entirely different type of pramana operation. It comes from outside and destroys the ego by saying that you are Brahman. For this, no action is performed. You just expose yourself to the pramana with Shraddha, the faith that the pramana will give you self-knowledge.
Very good. Now let's look at this, please. The word mantra in Sanskrit, it's like that. Tattvamasi is a mantra, okay, like that. And it acts as a bullet. Be careful. That it's not a matter of just being able to expose yourself to the mantra, because that's what happens. People actually ask me, because I can sing a couple of verses here and there. Say, can I get a mantra? And they ask Swamiji, also, can I get a mantra? As if it was some magical thing, that they will do something. I don't know if it does or not, a mantra, like some magical thing. But either rituals or chanting mantras, it does create something. I don't know if it actually makes it rain, as they say. I don't know if it actually makes, something wonderful happen to somebody, like a prayer. I don't know if it does that. Okay, fine. But there's one thing, a mantra, these mantras, they have to fall into a fertile mind, and it's not a magical thing. Like the word H2O for water. Oh, H2O. So what? The words don't make water. But then the words mean water. And how do they mean water? What makes them mean water? How come so then you have to know what it is. It could save somebody's life to know that. And so on. So anyway, so they had to be unfolded. That's what with a bullet is. They have to be unfolded properly. And be careful not to fall for the idea that by hearing a realized person, the vibrations of the word, made me see. If the mind is gross and dense and there is no understanding in it, you'll never know how is it that the sun doesn't rise. There has to be preparation for that. It isn't. You don't just say the sun doesn't rise. Oh, it doesn't rise. But the thing is rising. Well, it's not rising. I see, it doesn't rise. It's not rising. That belongs to the teacher that knows that, but it doesn't belong to you. You can repeat it. It's a mantra. The sun doesn't rise, the sun doesn't rise, the sun doesn't rise, and so on and so on. You have to go to to a discipline.
The code.
A discipline of understanding. In order to be able to know translation, rotation, oscillation, and all this stuff. The laws of, centrifugal and centripetal and all that kind of stuff. And say, wait a minute. So when that thing is unfolded, then when you say the sun doesn't rise, it is not just an empty word. It means something. That the teacher said the sun doesn't rise, has to be backed up by understanding. And to repeat it like a parrot. Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om, Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om. It makes you feel good, maybe, like going to a church. Because, when you go to a church, in my country, you go to a church and it feels good. You come out there some kind of relief a little bit, it feels so good. I went to church, it was so peaceful there, and the music and the incense and all that stuff. But then you revert back to the same old, rascal you were before. Oh no, he goes to church, he must be a good person. Wait a minute. In church he might be a nice guy, but once he gets out of it, you better watch out. So, because there's no magic to it. It's like wedding. A person gets married, and they think that is a magical thing. We went to the church, and then my wife picked out the flowers, and she went up to the altar, and she went in front of the Virgin such and such, and she put the flowers there, and she prayed, and because of that, we're going to have a good marriage. Besides, it was a great party, everybody was so loving, and all that, and we had these people singing, and this priest was the top of the best preacher in the whole state. He came especially for me. So therefore, I have a happy marriage, happy family, great children, and all that stuff. Whoa, there's no act of magic to it. It's just a ceremony. But you got to do the work.
Yeah.
That's the thing. You have to actually have the qualities in there. To not just be there wonderfully and this and that, going like that. You better listen to those words and make commitments, real commitments, and have the stick-to-itiveness to go and pray for help and try to create a life of relationship that is healthy and so on. Of course, God is a factor that needs to be taken into account, but you got to put your effort and your time into it, because there's no magic to it. You know what I'm talking about? There's no magic. So same way, these bullets, when a teacher says it, oh, he said tatomasi, oh, he told me tatomasi. So what? You know what that means? He fell not in an open chest, meaning the ego open. He came in an ego that was just going another magical thing to happen. That's how we go. I see people go to teachers. Oh, his presence made me feel, and so on and so on. But go home. Then the wife, where do you go? I said, well, do you pay the bills? Well, and so on, I said, come on, you're being so negative. So negative. You take care of business. He said, but has come from satsang and this and that. Satsang doesn't do it. You have to be available for it. That's another thing. That's why I wanted to bring this mantra stuff. Because people fall for that and they think it's something magical. And people sell those mantras. People actually buy mantras. Or they just, by saying the mantras, they are somehow put in a pedestal by others. Or he puts himself on a pedestal in order to be able to have control over others and so on. The same way with the dress, and the same way, oh, you know, a little bit of Vedanta, oh my God, you know, this guy must be something powerful. They watch out with that fellow because they're afraid of gurus also. Because these gurus are powerful, they can do something to me, and so on. Isn't it? Isn't it? You know, I remember that. These gurus, you know, they thought, hey, wait a minute, you better watch out. You just go along with it. Why? Because if you cross him, he might do something subtle that will mess you up, like a voodoo thing, kind of a thing, you know. And people believe that stuff. So mantras and all that, they have to be taken, they're too mystical. You know, they take them in the wrong way because they have never had the exposure. And it's sad because people are used by it. And before you know it, life goes by and nothing happened. Nothing happened. So it's just a big hocus pocus thing. Okay, so when the weapon tatomasi is used against the exposed ego. Okay, what do you mean by exposed ego? What would
Exposed to the teaching.
bring the guard down?
Yeah. Knowledge.
Bring the guard down.
Yeah.
That's why, look at this please. Upanishads, one of the interpretations is, Upanishad means near and below. This is a student, this is a teacher, he has the knowledge, and you come near and below. What does it mean below? You expose yourself and say, please, I don't know, teach me, I want to know. It's a recognition. It's like going to doctors. Doctors, I'm gonna cut you open. I'm yours.
It's surrendering.
Surrendering. That's correct.
Yeah.
Intelligence is surrender. Like I said, intelligence is surrender to my doctor. I said, this guy knows more than I do. So do me, fella. It's okay. Well, sign here. What is it? You will. I said, what? You see, I release you of all responsibilities if I die in the table. Yes, I sign here. Do it. It's surrender. It's an exposed ego. Means drop I used to have a boss, you know, as an American guy, you know, over in Oakland, Lakeshore Avenue. His name was David. He had a voice like a trumpet. You could hear him far away, you know. And we were in a neighborhood. There was a lot of shops. And we were out there, you know, pumping gas and all that, and he was always just out there. And then all of a sudden I hear this trumpet-type voice, Louis, drop the gun! Because I was fighting with somebody, you know, with another one of the employees. Louis, drop the gun. Cool it, man. Cool it, shit. Shit out, what is shit out? That's what it is. Drop the guard and let yourself be taught. This is exactly what Arjuna did to Lord Krishna at the beginning of the second, when he started teaching. Arjuna was in a corner, he couldn't figure out what to do. He says, if I do is wrong, if I don't do is wrong. I like to find what is the best thing. And he goes to Krishna, which was his pal, says, please, he says, I don't know what to do, teach me that which is absolutely good. Shreyas. And then Arjuna, Krishna, you know, he says, I am your disciple, I am your shishya. At that moment, his pal became his guru. He was, first of all, like that, and actually he was his boss. You know, this is Arjuna. Go there, you know. And he was driving the car, right? But then when he found out that he was in trouble, then he says, please teach me, I don't know what to do. It's an exposed ego. And watch out, this guy Arjuna was no little guy, you know, he was a big guy. I'm talking about fierce and very strong and had a lot of experience. He was a great general and all that. He was a Pancho Villa all the way, you know, like that. But then he went and surrendered to his, you know, to Krishna, and he says, please teach me. It was a particular attitude, so he exposed his ego. And that's what he's talking about. I just wanted to focus on the exposed ego. It says when the weapon tatomasi is used against the exposed ego, then it is destroyed. What is destroyed? The weapon?
The ego is
Both get destroyed. Both get destroyed. Poof! And now even the weapon is gone also. Why? Because the words are also within the realm of avidya. Okay, then he says, thus, you need not do anything. I said, what? I said, but I gotta do my rituals, I gotta do my ceremony, I gotta do this, I gotta do my meditation. Wait a second, you don't need not do anything. When Swamiji Mahananda came to teach here in the 1970s, these people came down, he was the guru teaching, he's just coming and put in lotus posture and doing the pranayama, in the moment of teaching. They say, hey, get up, get out. Listen. And then somebody with the eyes closed, open your eyes and look at me. He wouldn't allow, because they thought that by doing that in front of a guru, so on, and doing the pranayama, or closing the eyes, he said, listen, open your eyes. Or if the guy was stinky, making anybody else feel bad, hey, go take a bath. Basic. He said, wait a minute, what kind of guru is this guy? He's not that magical kind of guru. He must not be a guru. Why? Because look, he's sending me to take a bath. He's sending me to I'm doing pranayama, that's spiritual. I said, wait a minute, this is a class. It's something you have to listen to. Pay attention. No, they used to do that in the 1970s. A lot of that. Swami Chidananda didn't mess around with that. They say, hey, listen, either you're going to sit up and listen, because otherwise you just lay down. Okay, this how do you call this? Shavasana, the pose of there they are receiving the knowledge. Say, wait a minute, okay, get up. That's why he says, thus you need not do anything. Except what? Expose yourself to the teaching. And the self here he's talking about is a mind. Mm-hmm. This difference between employing perception as one, using perception and inference, this is one way, mm-hmm. and exposing yourself to the teaching is another one, is what distinguishes this particular means of knowledge from all others. Exposing oneself to the teaching is lending oneself to an entirely different type of pramana operation. It comes from outside, from a teacher, in the form of words, and destroys the ego by saying that you are Brahman. For this, no action is performed. It is not a magical thing. See, it's not a matter, you are Brahman, oh, I'm Brahman. No, there's nothing of that. It's because it fell in a fertile ground, a mind that is exposed, and that knowledge can take place. He said, for this, no action is performed. You just expose yourself to the pramana with shraddha. Shraddha means what?
Faith.
Trust, faith. That is what this is what this guy did. He came near and below. It's like when you go to the doctor. I'm yours, do me. Okay? Shraddha. This says, the faith, okay, with Shraddha, the faith that the pramana will give you self-knowledge. The faith that the pramana will give me self-knowledge. The eyes are pramana to see objects. And you don't question the pramana, the eyes, when I say, look. Right? You surrender to the pramana, the eyes, to see. In the same way you surrender with shraddha, with faith, to the words of the teacher. For that you expose yourself. Like that. And that will bring knowledge. Direct and immediate knowledge of yourself. Not just knowledge like in a brochure thing, that you read about something, but you never been there. This is direct, immediate knowledge of yourself. Like that. Okay. We're going to leave it there. I hope this is some clarity. We'll see more about this. But Swamiji is doing a great job here. I love this. Okay, I'll take rectangle here. And then the next section says knowledge and error cannot coexist.
It's like darkness and light cannot coexist.
That's right. Correct. Exactly. Any comments, please? How is this? How's it hit you?
Good.
How's it hit you?
Master.
How's it hit you?
Say once,
I'll tell you how it hit me. It's like what the leopard says after it eats the food.
Yeah.
It hit the spot.
It hit the spot. That's it. Good.
once you understand the knowledge, our knowledge will set you free.
Yeah.
There's another,
That's why there's
but it's
another
saying the
quote.
very same thing.
Yeah.
Because once you understand the knowledge, you're then free of the Maya, and you're free of the anger, and you're free of some of the things that we were talking about earlier
Mm-hmm.
that goes on in the society where people rely on all kinds of outside exposures to fill up their lives because they're afraid to face themselves. They're constantly listening to something or watching something. It's like being on a merry-go-round. They go around and around and around instead of facing their true self and the true knowledge
Yeah.
of oneself. But then that's where they're at. That's where they are in their journey.
Yeah.
So,
When you're talking about knowledge will set you free, what does knowledge set you free of? Well, right now you explain the effects of not having knowledge, isn't it? You know, the things that I do, the things that I don't do, and the attitude. Those are the effects of prior to knowledge, isn't it? So, but what does knowledge take care of?
ignorance.
The cause of all those things you're talking about.
Ignorance, right.
That's right. So, the freedom is from ignorance.
Right, some people, for example, they might like to get into drinking a lot, and they think that's gonna make them happy, but in reality, it's a downer. What goes up makes you come down, so they're really making themselves feel sad. So then they drink again, or whatever it is, and they go up again, and then they come down again. It's this constant up and down instead of taking the middle road.
Yeah. That's correct. So anyway, so the behaviors and the feelings and the attitudes, you know, get poof as a consequence of self-knowledge. But now, of course, some of those behaviors that are not conducive, you know, what they do, they create a shield that does not allow the ego to expose itself. You know, some people use the word willfulness.
Well, they do that
Okay,
because
so
they're
the willfulness becomes like a shield in which the person is committed to do that, you know, live a life, you know, in which sense gratifications and all that stuff, priority and all that. And the person does not create some sensitivity. Okay, like that. In other words, the ego does not get exposed. What it is, the ego creates a shield which it uses not only to defend itself, but even to attack others like that. But once knowledge is there, this shield, but for knowledge to take place, this person has to grow so the shield can actually be open. And even though you might be a sinner, but if, you know, just going back again to the Bible, when they talk about, Jesus took a bath. He was, quote unquote, baptized by somebody. And this somebody that baptized him, or gave him the bath, his name is what? John. John the Baptist. Okay. And one thing that this John the Baptist was preaching to everybody, you know what he was preaching? You know, have you ever heard it, what he was preaching? Repent, repent, repent.
Yeah.
In other words, even though you're a sinner, the worst sinner, as long as a person says, man, I messed up, the ego gets exposed. In that mind, I don't care how the worst sinner can be. He ate his mother and made tacos out of it. Let's just say that. That's sin altogether. But the moment that the person opens his heart and he wakes up to the reality, and then the weapon shoots a bullet. Tattvamasi. You are that Brahman. In that heart, then he will come. So same, in the Bible, in the Christian Bible, they have this character they talk about, which is Saint John the Baptist. And Jesus took a bath there too. He was baptized also. Okay, like that, and his words were, repent, repent, repent. If you don't repent, you say, wait a minute, I've been messing around all this time and I've been barking it up the wrong tree. I need to know, I need to get these things straightened out. I don't care what you did or what you didn't do, that you were supposed to do. This knowledge will bless you, but you have to have that. That's going to be a mind that becomes what? Pure. Not because of the things of the past, but in that moment the person became open. It's like a ground that's been always full of rocks, but somebody comes and works on that and makes the ground fertile. It's the same ground. Before it was nothing but a desert, but now the person actually tills it in such a way that now the thing is ready to receive the seed. Is that right? Mm-hmm. That's the same way. And then everything gets resolved, regardless of how much of a sinner you were. Doesn't matter. Because you're not a sinner, but you just didn't know, that's all. Lord, lead us from what appears to be true to what is true. Lead us, Lord, from confusion into clarity. Lord, lead us from a sense of limitation to discover our completeness. Lord, that is whole. This is whole. From that whole, this whole became manifest. And if from that whole we were to take away this whole, what will remain would again be only the whole. Lord, let there be peace, peace, peace. Om asato ma sat gamaya, tamaso ma jyotir gamaya, mritryo ma amritam gamaya. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnaat Purnamudashyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kachit Dukha Bhavet Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Shri Guruvyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
I see.